I can't hear my own voice coming through. I guess that's the way it is, right?
We can hear you. Maybe if you had headphones on, you'd be able to hear.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the headphones also clear out, extraneous noises, like if there's a dog barking in the background.
Okay. Yeah, let me know if that becomes a problem.
No, it sounds really clear right now, so you're good.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Karen.
Oh, her cat comes to
The dog is walking around deciding. She didn't feel she was too well portrayed last week.
doesn't exactly fit the profile that we had.
Yeah. And she's a part of the group now.
Everybody's heard now. The Maharaj is coming in September, with his health permitting. I sent that little link around where you can hear that he's saying, he's planning, if all goes well, to come in first week of September and not leave until January 2019. So this should be a very excellent
opportunity. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Oh, you know what, John? I think it's going to be important for a lot of people if he's willing to do it, if he comes, to go to Tanya and Streams.
Right.
One Circle, because that is really more accessible.
Yes.
To a lot of people. And I think they had quite a crowd there. I wasn't.
We had a very good crowd the whole time.
Yeah, it was.
And they're a good facility, they do a good job. They always do a good job.
Yes.
You can trust that they'll do a good job.
Yes, it was very welcoming, and the microphone was excellent. The only thing is, and I WhatsApped Maharaj because I said last time there was a lot of confusion, so I'm not going to do anything at all unless he gives direct instruction, which will probably come through his son. But, until it gets closer, and of course he knows that One Circle would love to have him back, and we can make arrangements of this, but everything, like I told him in the WhatsApp, I don't want to do anything until you say go. And, I'm sure his son will contact us or whatever. But last time there was a lot of confusion and it upset Maharaj in a few different things. So I just want to make sure that everything is by his command, and whatever he needs then is done.
Yeah, and it would actually take the burden off his son, for hosting all of because, the space at One Circle is a much larger space.
Right. No, I understand. And that's why I said I WhatsApped him and, I guess I texted him on WhatsApp, I guess. And I said, these are of course, we're very excited that you're coming. I heard you today say you were coming. That's excellent. And, One Circle would love to have you back. But I personally am not going to do anything at all this time unless I'm told directly by you, which will probably be his son. So no arrangements. I'm no planning of any kind. And even like I've told him before, even if it's just my being able to bow at your feet and listen, I'm cool with that. So whatever you need or not need, it's you. Whatever you desire is what I would do.
Excellent.
He has to feel comfortable. Maybe his son's house is and because he could do like a series of short, and you might have to limit it. You could say, okay, if he wants to do it at his son's house, and you could have 20 people, you could.
But doing the whole weekend is good for people because then if they fly in, they can do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Right. And all of these things, it'll all come about as it should. But last time, the whole thing came about and it was bothersome to Maharaj. I'm not talking about just the one. I'm talking about the way it was planned and how everything went down. That's why this time, again, I've said, I'm not going to do anything unless I hear from you directly.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, because you get the sun in the middle and then it gets,
Well, it wasn't the sun. See, it wasn't the sun in the middle last time. It was some outside sources that came and said, John, please contact these folks and book Maharaj. But Maharaj didn't know Maharaj was being booked. nor did his son know. So this time it's just going to be as Maharaj wishes, as his son wishes, directly, and with no, you know, and he may say, yeah, let's do one circle, that's great, or let's do, but whatever it is, it's him that's doing it. And so far I haven't heard anything from WhatsApp. A lot of times when I WhatsApp Maharaj, it might be a couple of days, maybe even a week or two later that he speaks in any way. But I opened it to say, I'm not going to do anything without you.
Yeah. And also,
that sounds very good.
Yeah, that's good too. But there is also a third possibility that, you know, depending on how many people want to come, because Tanya Streams was pretty crowded, it may be a third venue, you know, but then that would be a little more complicated and you'd have to rent someplace. And that's also a possibility. But, you know.
Yeah, we'll just wait to see how it unfolds. That's all I would say is we can get excited that he's coming, but no plans of any kind. And it's far away, too. You know,
it's way far away. You don't need to make any plans.
Exactly.
You know,
even last time, the
this
plan,
far ahead.
Exactly. It's just, we're happy that he's coming, good, and his health is good. That's the most important thing. And however he wishes, because even last time, he wasn't planning on doing all these, you know, it was advertised he was going to do satsangs like every day and 4 times, all this kind of stuff. But whatever he feels like doing, that's the thing.
Absolutely.
And his son and their family, they want to see their dad, you know. That's like, although Maharaj is Maharaj to us in human body form, moving about, he's a member of a family that has a son. So we have to consider this too.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
But it is very happy that he's coming. It's good, good, good.
Yeah, and some people like Andrew could fly here from Arizona, and Sandra from Los Angeles. And
Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
Oh, remember we had the one
closer.
from Colombia, South America?
Yes.
Alvaro.
Yeah. Alvaro. Yeah. He was actually helping to do the self-to-self. But I would say no plans should be made yet, because again, last time that also was a little bit of an issue where people made plans, they flew in, and they didn't get to see Maharaj at all. So as the time gets closer, everything will fall into place. Until that time, I wouldn't think one thought about it.
Yeah. Yep.
What is One Circle? Is it a retreat center or something, or?
No, it's a private home that has a large living room, and they have hosted many spiritual teachers over the years. You know, Muji's been there. You know, all these people, you know, before he became a rock star. There were loads of people. They're very familiar with having spiritual teachers there. And you know, it's a very nice, you know, it's a neighborhood. It's just, it's out in the suburbs a little bit. So, you know.
Yeah, it was good. If you watch the Ramakant Maharaj USA for the 16th, 17th, and 18th, it was filmed there at One Circle.
I know that last time Maharaj came, many people were hoping that to be traveling through the United States, visiting different cities, giving satsang. But from what I'm feeling, he doesn't have the strength to actually do something like that.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah. And again, last time it was mostly he was coming to the U.S. to see his son.
Yeah.
And a lot of people started doing things and promoting, and it just. It was nice for everyone, but it was rough on Maharaj. This time, hopefully, it's going to be good for Maharaj and good for the people.
All right.
Yeah, that's the best of intentions here.
Well, I just had the snowplow guy at my door asking to move a car so that he could get in tomorrow and tonight.
Oh.
Isn't that impressive?
There you go.
Yeah, somebody that's concerned before the snow even falls about being able to do the job.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed.
That's great.
The first day of spring. And
For you all, we're expecting a very big snow tonight.
Oh,
It's
Tomorrow.
ironic. It's the first day of spring, and it's the first big snowstorm we've had.
And we may get up to 8 inches, so.
wow.
Yeah, everybody gets, very people go into major freak out because there's so many roads and so many, it's a major freak out city. So
It's hard for us to imagine out here in the West.
no.
So maybe instead of having mice tonight, we'll have rabbits. Or what runs around in the snow?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I guess I could say something about the practice. I'm curious a little bit about other people's experience. For me, it's like I get a gradual sense of what the self of self is, or that it's like a sense of being free from my usual self. And this has been going on for years now, actually a few years, since I started studying non-duality, where I used to be a Buddhist practitioner and I had some sense of it, but it just over the years, it's gradually, I'll like not feel free for long, periods of days or sometimes a month. And then the next time I get the sense of freedom, it feels deeper than the previous one slightly. And it keeps getting deeper and deeper. And I have had periods where that sense has been present like for a couple of days. And like yesterday, last night, I had something came to me and said that you're going to feel enlightened tomorrow. So I woke up and sure enough, a thought came to me or whatever, a sense came to me, and I just felt incredible, really nice for that whole yesterday, for most of the day. And then, of course, as expected, it usually wears off eventually. But I just wonder if others are having something similar to that. I have read where other people do like a gradual deepening, so it happens differently with all of us. I mean, some people get all that sudden awakening or whatever, but
progressive steps, Maharaj always says, but not to concentrate on this. I know it's good, and I myself have come through these different phases of, oh yeah, okay, and see, then the idea is that when the, quote, world starts to press in, like Maharaj says, it starts to press in on you, then mantra and remaining with your selfless self, because you're always that. It's just that your attention goes out to other things and you start to believe in the activities and start to believe, I am this body, I am somebody else, I'm doing these things. And when you're not, then you feel that, like you said, that very peaceful presence with no thought, everything just coming and going. It's very beautiful. And like Maharaj says, these are the progressive steps, and not to take identity or take ownership of these progressive steps, because like you said too, I'm going to feel this way or I'm feeling this way right away, and I am somebody else that's feeling something has separated you from that feeling. from that presence, from the feeler, as Maharaj says.
Right. That's what always gradually creeps back in, and I don't even notice it until I'm somewhat deep into it again.
Exactly. And then as soon as you notice it, mantra, remain with your selfless self, mantra, remain with your selfless self. And as soon as you notice it, like it will become less and less and less that you'll notice that you're not, because you won't be there to notice anything. It'll just be, okay, something's happening and I'm starting to feel this way. There's a pressure of I am somebody else. And in that moment that I use that I am somebody else, or I recognize that I am somebody else is being formed, mantra, and remain with my selfless self. Don't go out. Just be still.
Yeah. So I was also wondering, well, when I was feeling when I'm feeling really good, and should I mantra then, or it seems like I don't need to at that point, you know?
Well, again, if you're feeling something, then you've created an experiencer that's experiencing and feeling. Even, whether it be a good experience or bad experience, there's an experiencer there experiencing it. And using mantra or remaining with mantra, as long as there's an I am somebody else that's forming, that's feeling something or feeling this or feeling that, then the mantra can be used to remain with your selfless self. And then there won't be good or bad feelings. There will be no feeling at all. You're just concentrating on the presence that these feelings are arising on top of. And then the feeling is the bliss because there's no disturbance. Good feeling or bad feeling, there's a disturbance, and you get into the cycle of pain and pleasure because there's an I am somebody else that wants this nice feeling, and then the mind sits there and says, oh, I hope this nice feeling lasts, or it's not going to last. And then as soon as I slip into an it's not going to last or how long it's lasted, I place an I am somebody else in time experiencing this experience rather than just remaining with my selfless self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the other question is, when doing the focus on the mantra, I know it's different degrees at different times. Like sometimes it's sort of like in the background, other times I have more available, nothing's distracting me so I can focus on it more. But I know it's supposed to go with the in-breath and the out-breath. But is there any rule at all as to like how much percent of focus like sometimes I forget, I just automatically do it with the in-breath and out-breath, and I'm not really focusing on the breath. And I don't know if it's more effective when you actually have some focus on the breath. You know, I don't really notice the results until, I don't know, like later, they just come about by themselves. But so sometimes I can notice the result, sort of what seems like almost like a causal result at the time of doing it, but it's not really real. But so I was wondering if there's like a percentage we're supposed to, is it better to have more focus on the breath along with the mantra, or does it make much difference? I
would say, and I've heard Maharaj say before, not to make any deliberate efforts.
Yeah.
You know, the mantra, okay, and it's spontaneous, and when you're not, you know, it's running in the background, and then it comes to the foreground for whatever situation is happening, that there's an I am somebody else that's beginning to experience something, and this mantra is erasing that I am somebody else slowly, silently, permanently. Like Maharaj says, in the beginning, you sit for the meditation, and you sit, and that's fine, and then as it progresses, you move about doing your daily activities all the time, mantra, mantra, mantra. Mm-hmm. When you're saying that I'm doing, like I'll be at work doing something and there's nothing there, but if then something starts to press, like Maharaj says, those pressures from the outside, so to speak, that mantra will allow you to remain with your selfless self and not take those impressions. I think Maharaj talks about like not falling back into the ditch. You know, you remain with your selfless self and you don't get like caught up in all the, oh, this is happening and that's happening and I have to do this and no, you just remain with your selfless self. As far as the breathing and the times that you notice the breathing, that's fine. Just continue, and when the time times that you don't, that's fine too. The mantra is you become one with the mantra, one with your selfless self, and then outside things become separate because you're one with the mantra, you're one with your selfless self. So that you'll start to observe this duality, or this is not myself type thing arising, because I'm one with my selfless self, I'm one through the mantra. These things are occurring, but I'm totally unconcerned with that, because I'm one with the mantra, I'm one with my selfless self, which is then the discrimination becomes automatic, because you know that sense of presence. Okay, that formlessness. And this situation that's occurring in front of me is in form, therefore it's automatically discarded using mantra. I can then, like you said, go through the experience and then kind of look back, knowing that there was no experience, no experiencer during that experience. Therefore, there wasn't something in memory that has some kind of footprint was placed in memory. And you said, I had this experience. Either I don't ever want to have that experience again, or I would like to repeat that experience. So the pain and pleasure principle automatically start in with an I am somebody else desiring. But instead of that, you mantra through it, and then these desires are brushed away automatically, because just remain with yourself. Just remain with your selfless self, that formless sense of presence that all of this is arising on. So nothing could possibly be attracting you. And every thought that comes through mind, because the mind came after, like spontaneous presence, body, mind, ego, intellect, the mind can only produce thoughts to you, the selfless self, in form, because it's through memory or expectation using a previous memory or a previous action that you believe you were doing. And as you're remaining with your selfless self, these thoughts and ideas that are presented through mind to you, the selfless self, will just pass. There'll be no attention paid, because the mind is producing thoughts based on the form world that you know you're not.
So that's sort of, I guess, what they call the witnessing consciousness or whatever.
And again, witnessing without a witness, not creating a witness. Witnessing is automatic. You know, as soon as witnessing is just like for a second there it said Keith up on the screen, and then when I spoke, boom, then John's face was there. That's witnessing. I'm not doing anything, it's just appearing before me.
Mm.
And don't take the touch as a witness witnessing, or as an experiencer experiencing. And if you don't take the touch, then it never was.
I was thinking today how, we read books about this stuff, and the masters say in the books, you are not what you experience, and you cannot be what you experience. In a way, that's, you can I can conceptually get that. It's not really sometimes I haven't connected with that conceptually, but it's not really that hard to get that conceptually. I guess I don't know, some people probably, if you told them that aren't experienced with this kind of teachings, wouldn't really be able to understand what you're talking, even get any kind of inkling of what that would mean. But maybe they would. Some people probably would, depending on the person, I suppose. But
remember, the books are the instructions that you're supposed to use. It's the instruction manual that you wrote to yourself. So in the next moment when something happens, you say, oh yeah, it's not reality, it's illusion. But instead, you don't want to form an I am somebody else that says, oh my God, this thing's happening, this is not good. And all the spiritual books, like Maharaj says, point to one thing: accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no master. Nothing is there. Therefore, whatever you're thinking that you're going through can't be. And when you're reading the spiritual books, it's as if you are sitting next to yourself saying, this is what you do. If you do this, all will be well. The next time you go through some kind of something that you're thinking is real, remember it's all illusion. It's an instruction manual to your own selfless self. That's what all the spiritual books are. The Selfless Self book, I Am That. All of these are instruction manuals from the selfless self to the selfless self for itself. You just have to impress it and act on it. Whatever, like I think Nisargadatta Maharaj says, whatever you've understood, act on that in the very next moment. Bring that into your experience. I think Ramakant Maharaj says, absorb whatever you've learned, whatever bookish knowledge you have, absorb that. Absorb it how? In the next moment, in the next step. You take one step, the master takes the other, until you're stepping forward and you know that everything is now your reality. Like you're living the fact that the world is absolutely illusion. I'm totally, completely unconcerned with it. I have no sense of this at all. It's like I'm just kind of moving about and scenes are happening, but there's no more impression of body that has a mind, ego, intellect flowing through that's believed in. There's no more thought process of gathering this information together and saying, this happened, I don't want this to happen again, or I do want this to happen again, or I wonder what's going to happen next. All of that is just the illusion. And the spiritual books are the instruction manual.
The other day, I was driving, listening to the bhajans, and all of a sudden I had this real flash. What is formless cannot think, and it has no memories. And then later I was eating, and I said, what is formless cannot eat neither. Mm-hmm. I don't know, it was just really kind of like very clear. And getting to Keith's point, Keith, for a while it stayed there, that sort of kind of like realization, basically. And then, slowly it kind of, like you fall back into the old pattern or whatever, or not so much pattern, it's just that other things come in and you get involved in different areas or doing different things and so forth. But I didn't really care, I didn't really care whether it stayed or not, just let it, if it's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's not there, basically. Not trying to hold on to that kind of thing,
Right.
Yeah, because the one that's holding on to the experience is supposed to be being erased slowly, silently, and permanently, because that's the reality. Your reality of the selfless self experiencing yourself. Experience your selfless self, not this little self with all the body knowledge and ideas and thoughts and concepts.
Right. It was the moment of the self experiencing itself.
Exactly.
That was it.
Selfless self.
Yeah. And that's totally uncontrollable. It's like dynamite.
Slowly, silently, permanently. Slowly, silently, permanently. This I am somebody else, which is the only, quote, block between you and your own self, is being slowly, silently, and permanently removed. And in everyday experiences, when it starts to get turned up and a person starts to appear before you, slowly, silently, permanently erase that. It's just I think we talked about before, and Maharaj uses the spiritual broom. You keep sweeping, the door opens, blows more leaves, you keep sweeping, door opens, a little bit more leaves come in, you keep sweeping. You just keep sweeping. Eventually your floor is completely clean. All the ash that was covering the fire that you are is removed, and the fire is burning bright. The only thing that's separating you from yourself is an idea and belief in this I am somebody else, that the sense of presence is more than just the sense of presence. It's a body, it's a mind, it's an ego, it's an intellect, and it's not true. All this is appearing on your spontaneous presence.
Then there's also the aspect of that I like to share this. It's not like I know something that other people don't know so much as. It's just I would like, because I share being here in this world with others, that I would like them to know the same freedom that I have been able to, at least at times, go into. So sometimes when I talk about this stuff with a lot of people that aren't really aren't really practicing at all, or they might have some inklings of spirituality, but it's not that they some of them recognize that there might be something to what I'm saying, and some of them don't. But I'll talk about it anyway. And sometimes, especially if somebody's receptive, and I start talking about it, it actually almost loosens me up, and I start to feel more free, just in the by I don't know, because I'm inviting it or something, and so
Just understand completely that when you're talking to others, you're talking to your own selfless self behind the eyes and ears. So that experience is being created. And those motives that are being held in a mind, if it's a body and an ego talking to another body and an ego about an idea, this will be felt. And as this is not the case, you'll feel that too. But remember that the person that you're talking to is the selfless self, your own selfless self. And if you're starting to, like you said, you speak like, I know this and you do not know this,
right.
I am somebody else in you that's created, and you, the selfless self, in the other form, recognize this. There's only one thinker, one thought. So all of this, you are interacting with your own selfless self. And the way that this spontaneous speaking occurs is when there's no I am somebody else. There's no point of view. The speaking and the listening are one and the same. There's no separation between the speaker and the listener. It's as if you're talking to your own self in the mirror. So if you sit there and you say, I know this, or this is my experience, and that's not quite right, you, the selfless self, in the other form that's before you, there's a sensation of this. And that's why Maharaj just recently said to somebody at the ashram, he said, go ahead and teach, that's fine, but don't take the touch of teacher. That's very beautiful, actually, because as long as you take a touch of teacher, teaching something, duality immediately. I'm teacher, I'm teaching something to someone. But when there's just speaking and listening, there's no idea that you're doing anything other than you're some instrument that's being played and speaking is occurring. There's no thought process, nor is there any position that you're taking, or even a thought process that's running on how it's being perceived by someone else. There's just speaking. And you know in your own sense of self that the selfless self is the only one that's speaking and listening in all the forms and knows instantaneously what the process is that's going on inside of this consciousness that's creating this speaking and listening. And like Maharaj says, you have to take the ego of a master when you are taking the ego of a master-disciple type relations. And Maharaj said beautifully when he came to the USA, he said, this is just spiritual talking. There's no, I'm some great master and you're a disciple. It's just a conveyance. And that's the key, is when the selfless self is speaking to itself without there's no expectation. There's nothing I can get from someone else, because there is no someone else. And there's no one here that can get something, because this is not a thing.
Although sometimes when I do communicate to others about this, they actually tell me that over a period of the conversation, and sometimes I'll go on and on just without them responding, and they'll say, I'm starting to feel loose and free or good or naturally high just by listening to you, you know.
Absolutely, because it's your own selfless self responding to itself. It's not, see, this is the key thing. There's no egoistic sense of self here. And when that self is speaking to itself and there's no barrier, it's a very beautiful thing. People will say, like, I feel my soul is stirring inside as you're speaking. I feel my spirit is rising, or some such thing like this, because the selfless self is speaking to its own self. And the more that this occurs, and the less there is an egoistic sense of there's someone speaking to another someone, the feeling, the presence, because the presence is everywhere. See, it's not this body and that body, it's the presence. All of this, which is vibrating with its own self through the form of otherness.
Wow. How does it happen? How does it do it?
This is, you know.
It's kind of like watching I'm a big football fan, and I watch these quarterbacks. It's like, how do they throw these precision passes just to where only the receiver can get it, you know? It always blows my mind.
Well, that's the self of self in the form. Everything's being done through these different instruments, and some, you know, that it's different levels of different things based on the needs in the moment. Just the speaking and the listening, the activities, your job, all of this kind of stuff, like Maharaj talks about in the dream. The dream cities are being created, and all the dream things are going on. And in the dream, different people have different skills, different talents, and all of that, but all of them are not. When the dreamer wakes up, they're all gone. And yet, for a time, they appeared to be separate. They appeared like, this one can do this, and this one, you know, and it's true that inside of the dream, you have somebody who can do a broad jump higher than another person can do a broad jump. Or maybe this person runs faster than that person. But it's all the selfless self. And see, when you know yourself in a real sense, then no pride for body will ever occur to you, because body is the last thing you want to think about or place in. I was not body, I am not body, I'm not going to remain the body. The pride of the body, I think Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about the goo, that gunk that created this body, and you're proud of that. You know, you are this man and woman get together and create this gunk that makes you. And that's what you're proud of. This body, this I am somebody else and all its activities and all this. No. And there's no need to be proud, because it's like, even if you were a master guitar player, but you went out into the audience and it was all you, like you're playing for yourself, no matter how good or how bad you are, you're only playing for the audience of yourself through the idea and belief of otherness. And once that idea and belief is gone, and there's no separation, then there's no even concept that you're playing to yourself. It's just movements and scenes.
But this has to happen spontaneously, this speaking, right? In other words, you know, sometimes when I visit my family, you know, I go there frequently because of my mother and so forth, and try to help my sister out. I have a very large family, you know, it's just huge, and you know, there's so many things are going on, and I used to talk a lot, but I don't do it anymore, and it's just that it just doesn't happen. And sometimes I ask myself, should I try to do something? But I think that the talking must happen by itself, just spontaneously. Correct?
Yeah. I mean, when you're like, I think we talked about last week, you don't push it, you don't pressure yourself, because it's your own selfless self. And if speaking is needed, it's needed. And if you're quiet, you're quiet. And the more you remain, especially as you're going through the progressive steps, the more you remain with your selfless self, then there won't be this need to talk, to interact or anything like that. And yet it won't be antisocial because remember, your own selfless self is behind the eyes and ears of those people, so to speak, that are in front of you. So there's a communicating at a level that's only one. And yet speaking and listening and all of this kind of stuff, it'll just be spontaneous. If you're not trying to speak, then when the speaking is spoken, I think they say, like, the man of few words or whatever. When the speaking is spoken, there's a power behind it. There's a presence behind the speaking.
There's also, the I guess part of that whole thing about speaking is there's also the ability, and I don't know if this is spontaneous as well or something that one has to kind of like use their faculties to do, but the language that's used, the way that you try to speak to people, many people using terminology that we use will not get it. So you have to kind of resort to some other way, type of terminology to really kind of like come across,
But see, that is going to be noticed as when the selfless self is speaking to itself. There is an idea of the conditioning that there's a speaking automatically. Just like, if you're talking about, you can speak through Christianity, the language. You can speak through Buddhism, the language. You, the selfless self, can speak any and all of these languages. And if there's a conveyance that it needs to be conveyed, it will be conveyed. And if not, you just, in many times, if around people, mantra, just keep remaining with my selfless self, keep remaining with my selfless self, something comes up. Somebody may even come to you and start asking you, hey, I've heard you speak about such and such, and I'd like to, then that's the selfless self. There's an opening for that selfless self to speak. But yeah, if it's you with your ideas and beliefs and knowledge, and you're speaking to someone else, then you're going to make an effort to, I'm speaking to a Christian, therefore I have to speak this way or that way. The selfless self will spontaneously, there's just a knowingness. It's the one selfless self. Just like when Maharaj answers a question from someone, the answer is based on the questioner. Because it's only one. Listener and speaker are the same. Mm-hmm. I think Nisargadatta Maharaj says, as the question is coming, he hears the answer, meaning that speaking, he's hearing the answer of this question through the speaking.
Oh, yeah.
There's no thought process about it. And the cool thing is even if there's no thought process about it, and then suddenly you say, wow, that doesn't sound like something I heard, or this won't sound right, or whatever, then that I am somebody else wheel is starting to turn. You get involved in a conversation, you hear yourself speaking something, and that's why I guess, a lot of times it's how they say, well, they're contradicting all the time. No, it's not contradicting. It's the speaking is spontaneous. And as long as it's spontaneous, whatever said is correct in the moment. So if there's the idea of a mind, ego, intellect coming through and saying, wow, many people know about this Das Bod, thing or whatever, and I shouldn't say that way. I just said something that doesn't gel with the spiritual knowledge. Then there's an I am somebody else in a thought process coming. The spontaneity allows whatever's being said to be perfect for the moment because the selfless self is speaking directly to itself all the time.
And that spontaneous intelligence seems to have an awareness of its own limitations, sort of. And it's the same intelligence, I guess, that makes everything work, but we don't know how everything works. But
well, again, remember, too, if you're the dreamer dreaming and all the people are speaking in your dream, nothing spoken is true, nothing spoken is false, because technically it's just a dream and the dream people don't exist. So this speaking can happen because there's no sense of a speaker. There's no sense of an individuality. So you're speaking directly from that source, from that dreaming, like Maharaj says, that deep place, that selfless self, just like you're speaking as the dreamer, because you're no longer dreaming as one of the characters, there's just speaking. Also, there's a freedom, because whatever's spoken about, there's no big like, oh, this is going to be some grand, profound thing that's said in the dream. Who cares?
Yeah, at the ultimate level, nothing's happening.
Yeah,
You know.
There's no one to take credit. There's no egoistic sense of self trying to convey anything. There's just speaking. This is just a voice box that this selfless self just seems to be speaking through and listening and speaking, and that's it.
It's like channeling. It's really like you're become a vehicle for, your body becomes a vehicle for the selfless self to go through, like a channel.
And because there's no mind, ego, intellect, or an I am somebody else. It's just an instrument, and there's no sense of the instrument. And that's why you hear a lot of times about different various folks who they go out and get famous and the money and all that, because they have to take the ego of a spiritual teacher all the time. They have to take the ego of a guru all the time. And in doing so, there's an automatic separation. So there's an automatic falseness and a belief in then I need to behave and act in this way, rather than it's just spontaneous. There's no sense, even looking at the video, there's a person, like you see this, yes, but from this perspective, there's not a this, this whole thing. It's just seeing yourself in this projection on this little screen, but there's no kind of there's somebody here and there's something here, and what does that mean, and who's this person, and how. It's just not like that. And mantra slow ideas, which is all there are. Every time you speak, if you take a position of any kind, it's false. Oh, my internet connection is unstable. That could be because of the snow and stuff. So we might be popping off early.
There was a little bit of a rubber voice that went on there
Yeah.
for a couple seconds. Morning.
Yeah.
There was something about the video that you sent us during the week, the one that had Maharaj speaking to a group of people at the ashram regarding self-inquiry is body knowledge, and watching the way he actually spoke and just his moves, the way he just was, his presence, you might say, was really, that spoke so powerfully to me. It was just, it was so obvious there was no one there, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Just really,
Absolutely.
and I don't know if I was seeing myself in that, or, but it was just, I certainly didn't feel like, but I could see it in him, just the absolute presence that was there, and just no one's there. Just kind of like, just no one there. Just kind of like happening through him. It's just really something. It was really a powerful video. What he said was powerful, but also just watching it I watched it a number of times actually for that reason. So.
Good. Good. And yeah, as you are holding less and less of yourself, then you'll see yourself everywhere, because you are everywhere. So, and the master and you, there's no separation between the two. And as you start to discard these ideas and beliefs and concepts you're holding on to, then you'll begin to see yourself everywhere. And the empty shells. And I like that video too. That was Vladimir. He has a couple of these videos that right now we're doing a lot with the French transcriptions and stuff, or what do you call, transcriptions on the Ramakant Maharaj USA videos. But at the same time, then trying to do some of these that Vladimir has of different various talks like that one.
What,
Especially, I'm sorry?
What day was that? Do you know which day? Because I see all the, you put up multiple ones every day.
Actually, on Ramakant Maharaj USA, I try to just put up one video per day, but that one was
On Facebook.
yeah, exactly. That's on the Facebook Ramakant Maharaj USA.
Oh,
I try to just put one video up every day, and now we're doing it in the French Maharaj USA as well, putting one video up every day with the transcriptions in French. But this one is I sent it out in an email actually because it was
email, yeah.
After I had listened, because when the most beautiful thing about transcribing and putting the subtitles and everything on the videos is you listen to it deeply over and over, because you go back and you put the words and then it goes back, and so it really impresses. And yeah, this was a really good one. Like, all of this self-inquiry is, I'm somebody else in this body doing inquiry of the self. And it was really, really, really good. If you need me, I can send out the link again after the...
Yeah, I would like that because I didn't see it either.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I just found this article online yesterday, and this lady, I thought she had a really excellent article, but she said that maybe, she didn't say definitely, but she said maybe sleep is going on all the time. Like deep sleep is actually here and behind it all, basically, or it's here all the time. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I mean, and I think Maharaj has said this, the same consciousness that's dreaming is dreaming this waking state. It's only the separation because of the body. I am somebody else appearing in this body form. There's a sleeping, I know I'm dreaming, then I wake up and I believe it's the waking state. But truly, the same consciousness that's creating the dream world is the same consciousness that's creating the waking world. And you are the witness of this consciousness that's appearing on your spontaneous presence. So you're really outside of it. That's why we used the example last time of dreaming you're a mouse, but you're not a mouse.
Mm. But I sometimes almost get a sense of that there's still the sleep part of me is here. Sometimes I get that.
When the deep sleep is your selfless self, where you don't know yourself, you don't know anything. You don't know world. There's no I am somebody else. There's no separation at all. So that is basically the state. But even that state is kind of witnessed. But the dreaming state and the waking state are the same. All these states are appearing upon your spontaneous presence. When you don't know yourself, that spontaneous forgetting, so to speak, because there's nothing here, except your selfless self, no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no Master, nothing is there. And again, how you were prior to beingness, how you'll be after leaving the body. This is that I don't know, that state of not knowing that you were or were not, or are not. It's nothing to know. There's no knowingness. And yet there's a knower there, because knowingness appears to that knower.
Sounds like double talk.
I mean, it gets,
I
if
know
you,
it's just because of the way language works, but
exactly. That's language, and the true is that all that's spoken about can only give concepts, because every word that's spoken creates a concept. And from where these words are arising, there's nothing. So there's nothing to compare it to. In order to make a comparison, there has to be a comparison of ideas and beliefs that are not true. And that's why I love Das Boot when it talks about the whole creation. And it starts out with the illusion. There is absolutely nothing but Brahman. That's it. Then in the illusion, in Brahman, there's a stirring of the wind. And the wind, which is movement, meaning that when the stillness is moving, that there's something that's moving in nothing. There's an appearance of something that appears to be moving in the nothing. And for a time, it's believed in that I'm in this something moving. But that's not the true state. That's not myself. So as Das Boot goes through to pick apart all of the different ideas and beliefs and concepts, it starts out with, there's only this. You are all that there is. There's nothing other than yourself. And then in this, there's the illusion which is created with the wind in space. But there's nothing other than your selfless self.
so then once there's that initial wind and differentiation, that's when everything else forms around that.
That's how Das Boot talks about the full formation of the nothing that's appearing to be there.
It sounds like the Bible, the original biblical, that in the beginning there was the Word. And the Word creates a world, because as you were talking, I realized the concept creates a whole world.
Yes.
Oh,
Every concept believed in creates a world. I mean, a lot of mini worlds and tons of universes, every concept. That's why slowly, silently, permanently erasing, using one thorn, the mantra, illusion, to remove another thorn, the illusion that appears to be true in the moment, and then throwing both thorns away. Using the I am to get rid of the I am, because there's something there that's experiencing and witnessing this I am. So this beingness is not needed. Absolutely is not needed. It's something that appears on that spontaneous presence for a time.
No, you say there's no experience, no experiencer, but yet it appears that something is experienced.
In the moment, but the experience is actually memory or projecting into future, creating an experience of, I have experienced this thing. Experience is just whatever's happening is in front of you as you're believing yourself to be in this. But remember too, we said, there's no concept of a point on the map where this is John, this is a computer, this is John, this is how you're relating object to object. It's not like that. When you're in mantra, or when you're having these glimpses of your selfless self, you see it's only, there's no, nothing is there because there's no sense of you. In order for a world to be created, you have to have a sense of you first, from which there will appear a world and a you in it. If there's no sense of you, then there's no sense of a world, because there's no progressive timeline through memory and expectation. It's just spontaneous happenings with no rhyme or reason. There's just happening. And you're right here, like Maharaj always says, do your job, do your duties, whatever's in front of you, do that. And then something else comes and something else. But there's no, like, how is this happening? Am I doing this for my future, or doing this or doing that? It's not like that. In order for a world to appear, and see, it's not a world appearing like, okay, when I'm with my selfless self, I don't see a world. That you don't become blind because you're with your selfless self. The idea of world is through concepts and ideas. The world is the mental kind of running thought process and all these things. There's still a physicality out there with your own self, because you're taking the touch. It's just I, but you're in a body form. This is known. This is like, okay, as long as I'm using this body. But again, it's using this body like an instrument. It's no longer believing that you're contained in this body, that all you are is this body. You're everything in all things, all the time, everywhere. All of this is appearing on your spontaneous presence. Again, you're the dreamer laying down, projecting the dream world, the world, and inside of this dream world, the world that you're seeing, labels, identification, subject to object relationships of what is this and who am I? I am here, this is here. This body is called John. That body is called something else. I am a man, that's a woman. All of these are concepts appearing on your spontaneous presence. In the formlessness that you are, just aware of your own presence, aware of your own selfless self, then all of these things that are appearing are known as the something, the form or the manifest that's coming from the unmanifest that I am.
There's a loss of involvement with it. Ramana Maharshi had a nice image. He said that prior to awakening, there's, it's like the moon in the sky at night, very bright, a full moon. He said once there's awakening, it's like the moon during daytime. It's just, it's there, but it doesn't have any draw. It's just kind of like
Exactly.
a disc in the sky. It's hardly visible.
Exactly.
So the creation is like that, yeah.
Because all the relations, all the needs, all the requirements came along with the body, and you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. Mantra allows you to get rid of this body knowledge, this sense that I am a body, or that I've done these things, or I shouldn't do these things, or I want to do more of this thing. When we talk about no experience, no experiencer, it's because, again, at the ultimate state, we talked about you're the mouse and you're experiencing a mouse life, but you, the selfless self, are not a mouse, nor have you ever been a mouse, nor have you ever experienced a mouse.
You're not going to remain a mouse.
Exactly. You're not going to remain a mouse. So all of these things are absolutely illusion. And the quickest, easiest way to discriminate remaining with your selfless self, as Keith said, there are days where it's just the presence, and the presence seems to be using body and moving about. This is the absolute truth. Knowing yourself in a real sense, you cannot be attracted to the form world. You cannot be attracted to form things, and you certainly will never, ever, ever trade your selfless self for the objects of the world that are appearing on your spontaneous presence and that are known as passing and transient, where you are eternal.
So you're no longer going to give them any credence or weight because they're just passing. And it's the, sort of this process where we have taken the illusion to be real. And so by that, we've created it.
And once there's an I am somebody else, it's almost impossible, while you're still believing you are this body, to not be involved in the activities that are occurring around the body you believe yourself to be. But when you know yourself as the formlessness, the presence that all of this is appearing on, then you're not confined to this one specific body, and what it's going through does not affect you, because you're not that. You know yourself in a real sense, and you are using this body formlessly aware, without a timeline, without expectations, without memory, without any kind of expectation of something is out there that I need or I want. And yet, again, because the truth is you're doing this now, but it's covering with all the thoughts and ideas and beliefs that you're the doer in the body form. But other than that, life is not changing because you're that now. You always will be. You can't not be yourself.
And you don't have to do it because it's real.
Exactly. If you had to do something, there'd be something outside of you that needed to be done. But this is kind of an undoing because of all the things. It's currently that way. Like, you go to work tomorrow and you do your job and you're all doing this, but there's a thought process of, I'm a doer in this body doing this. And when there's not, it's just being done. There's no taking ownership of anything because it's just happening. And you could say, like a lot of the bhakti is, you know, they say God is doing these things. I give all the expectation, all the fruits of my labor to God. That's what, you know, the Bible says, and this and that is like, I give everything to God, all the fruits of labor, all the everything. And it's the same thing in your selfless self. I am not doing anything. Why? Because I'm absolutely not capable of doing anything. And it doesn't mean you start popping champagne, like we talked about the hedonistic lifestyle of popping champagne and, you know, being the crazy rock star mouse who just goes off the deep end, because you know yourself in a real sense. And the bliss of knowing your own self in a real sense outweighs anything that the transient, passing material world that does not exist, that's appearing in the nothing, could possibly hook you with.
It only pulls you in more, actually. You know?
Exactly. You go further and further away. Like Maharaj talked about, the guy who was really progressing, doing well, coming to bhajans, doing all this, and then decided to get into politics. And still probably tried to remain, you know, selfless self. But then the desire, I want to win this election. And then the desire that I want to win this election, and there's an I am somebody else that then has to plan, well, if I win this election, what I'm going to do, and my platform, and the ideas and beliefs, and boom, you're gone. That's why Maharaj always says, when you're in the ashram and you meet yourself formlessly, informed through the body of what you believe yourself to be, and the master of Sri Ramakat Maharaj, when you meet yourself formlessly, keep that. He talks about taking pictures of the ashram and doing the bhajans to remind your selfless self, you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. Remember that the true reality, when you met yourself formlessly, and even like Keith said as he's going through a couple of days formlessly, remind yourself of self. You've forgotten your identity. You're starting to believe that you're something. You're not. You're believing in the illusion. I'm this body. I'm somebody else. I'm a man or woman, which then causes, you know, my relationships and my house and my job and my cars and all this stuff that I'm not, because I forgot my identity. What's my identity? I am not body. I was not body. I'm not going to remain the body. I'm the nothing. And the something that I appear to be seeing that I believed was myself is also actually the nothing, but there was a belief that it was something. Now I can be in this world, but not of it. I can be absolutely enjoying just the sense of knowing myself because I have a body. Without a body, I can't know anything other because the concept of otherness does not arise. And yet, I know I'm just using this body for a time. And like Maharaj says, the formlessness is going to unzip, meaning this body dies, unzip this form. But then here's the formlessness all around. Unzip the form and the formlessness comes out back into the formlessness that was always there, that it always was. And as Maharaj says, their clothes, before you unzip the formlessness, or, you know, unzip this clothes and get out of them, then take care of the clothes. The clothes get dirty, you wash the clothes, you take care of the clothes. But the clothes are just, okay, unzip and whoop, take off, put away. Absolutely not needed.
You know, that reminds me of, like, you know, another analogy of like a fish. You know, there's laws of the universe which are that, you know, a fish doesn't live when it's out of water. So, you know, if the fish swallows the bait, gets pulled up, he struggles for a bit, and then he's gone. And it's the life force just taking off. The life force doesn't care; it just keeps on going. Everybody makes a big deal out of, oh, the fish died. You know what I mean? But it's nothing other than that. It just violated one of the laws of you can't live out of water. So a human being is like, okay, if your heart's not working and your lungs aren't working, then you're like the fish that's thrown on the deck, and it's no big deal. It's just the life force leaves.
There's no place for it to go. Again, if you think, like, it's always talked about prana and the life force in the prana.
Yeah.
Breathing in, breathing out. We're all breathing in the exact same air. All the breath is coming into this body and out of this body and into that body and out of that body, and it's everywhere. So when this body expires, where does the air, when the air inside and the air outside are one and the same, there's no difference of any kind. And Maharaj always uses the example of the ashram and the toilet. And does the sky or the space in the ashram and the sky and the space in the toilet, does the sky and the space in the toilet go to hell and the sky and the space in the ashram go to heaven if the walls are knocked down? These are the walls. The only thing separating you from anyone else is the idea that you're in this body and they're in that body. But it's you all around that these bodies are appearing inside.
We're the holder of
Exactly.
our particular body and also of all bodies and everything else, the entire
Exactly.
universe. Yeah.
Exactly. Because just like the dreamer that's dreaming the dream is in everything. He's in the trees, he's in the grass, all the birds that are appearing in the dream, it's coming from the dreamer. All the people that are interacting are coming from the dreamer. The quote, so-called good people, the so-called bad people, all are coming from the dreamer. There's nothing separate and apart from the dreamer. It can't be. It just can't be. And the formlessness, the unmanifest, where this manifest, these forms are appearing, it can't be separate because it's appearing on this spontaneous presence. Without your presence, you wouldn't know anything. You can't, like we said before, if you're in a room of people, and this is a cool kind of exercise, if you're in a room of people, you can kind of pull the presence and think, okay, this person, maybe I'm in a meeting with them and they're going on and on and on and on and on. And I say, okay, if the presence was to go, this body is a dead body. And if the presence was to go from this body, the body's a dead body. So it's the presence that's speaking. It's not George or Susan or any of these people. It's the presence that's speaking because it can't be an individual. Because when the presence is gone, the body drops. So it's the presence that's speaking in the form that it's believing itself to be in that moment.
Yeah, and if you're not there, neither is anybody else.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When it's presence speaking to presence and there's no me, then there can't be a you. There has to be a me that's developing in order for there to be a you. In order for there to be a world, there has to be that sense. I am, but I am is just I, formlessly aware. That's it. Remain with the selfless self. Oh, excuse me. Remain with the sense of just I. And anything tries to add to the I, mantra. Sweeping as the doors open and leaves are coming in, sweeping. Just I. Oh, a little bit leaves. Okay, sweeping with mantra. Slowly, silently, and permanently. Just I. Just the sense, oh, but as nothing. Without forming something, without an idea of forming, I am somebody else. Because as soon as that clicks, just I is now I am this, I am that, I'm this, I'm that. And nothing you can point to can be yourself. Because again, just I is the formless sense of presence. So all these things that are appearing on just I is I am something in relation to something that does not exist.
I think in one of the first chapters of Selfless Self, Maharaj speaks of the this whole thing, basically, you know, the nothing, the something, and the nothing. The something is a disturbance on reality. It reminds me of the Catholic view, you know, the Valley of Tears. Kathleen, I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Oh, yes.
This world is a valley of tears. What?
Save us from the fires of hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
It can be, yeah, it can be a disturbance, a great disturbance, but you know, it's just.
That's why Maharaj says, you are disturbing the peace.
Mm-hmm.
The peace is there when you are not. You are the addition that's covering the peace that is creating a disturbance on the peace that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the solution? Knowing yourself in the real sense. And how do you know yourself in the real sense? You have to remove all the things that you are not. Now, you could sit there and say, one at a time, I am not this table, I am not this water, I am not this plant. Or you can do mantra and erase slowly, silently, and permanently the I am that could be something else. Slowly, silently, permanently, all these things that are covering the peace are gone. Because I think it was Ramana Maharshi who said, okay, you can disregard this doubt or this doubt, but go to the root, pull the doubter out. And how do you pull the doubter out? To know yourself in a real sense. To know yourself in a real sense, you remain with yourself the self through mantra. And as long as you experience a separate experiencer, you use that to do mantra, to remain with your selfless self. Until you've erased all the concepts and all of the ideas that you're believing are blocking you from the peace that you are, because the peace is basically just no disturbance, and the disturbance is I am as something. Not just I am this, or I am spiritual, or I am practicing, or I am getting close. These are all I am things that are added on to the peace that's disturbing. We talked about before too the idea of expansion, because that's a powerful thing, that you're standing there somewhere and you feel like you're expanding. But it's not that you're expanding, it's that this idea and belief and body is dissolving. You are everywhere. You can't expand. You can only dissolve the idea and belief that you're a body form.
You know, the one word that really sticks out for me is formless. That one word really kind of like, it just really means a lot. Formless, because what is formless, you know, as I mentioned before, can have no mind, it can have no sensations, it can have no feelings, it can have nothing. It's just absolutely nothing. And
unless it's using a form.
Yeah. But basically it's allowing the form to be used without identifying with the form. Just maybe that, you know, it's just basically the witnessing of what's happening. And not forming a witness as well.
Like Maharaj says, the electricity that's powering so many things, but doesn't know it's powering so many things. The formlessness using form, but not being aware, not taking the touch that it's using these forms. And not being concerned. Electricity can power the microwave, can power the coffee maker, and there's no discrimination. It's just there, providing the power, providing the energy, moving everything about. There's a mind, ego, intellect then that tries to interpret what all this moving about is, but it's formless, and it's appearing in the formlessness just like the electricity. It's just there. We say the electricity is powering the lights, powering the microwave, powering the coffee pot. But it doesn't know that, and it's not moving or doing anything. It's flowing, but
It's not aware that it's running
exactly
the fan or turning the lights on or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
There can be disappearance of form that is in the sense of change, but there can't really be non-being. There's some kind of, that's what this lady said in the article yesterday. She said her awakening came when she realized that she can't not be, or nothing can non-exist. Things can change, but there is
What appears on the changeless. Any change is appearing on the changelessness that you are. And the non-being, absolutely there's a non-being, because there's a non-being state when it's the absence of being. You are the absence of everything.
but it's still non-being though.
Yeah, the non-being is the absence of being. There is no being. How you were prior to beingness. Beingness arose on spontaneous presence. But non-being is not known. There's nothing to know non-being because it's non-being. Yet it's there. Again, formlessly aware.
It's awareness, evidently, of some sort.
Even to use the concept of awareness, because awareness is something that it can lead to concepts being added on to it and down the rabbit hole of concepts of awareness. What is awareness and how is this? But knowing yourself in a real sense will blast out all concepts.
So it still knows itself, maybe not in a typical awareness way.
But how? No, because again, Maharaj says, prior to being this, how were you after leaving the body? There's nothing to know. Consider this, if it's all space, how does space know space? Space knows space, if you want to say it like that, if space is the aliveness. By the objects that appear in space, you perceive space. Otherwise, space is space. If it's everywhere in all things all the time, there's nothing other to know. That's why you have a manifestation where there is an otherness that's perceived on that all of oneness, because it's all one. There's the manifestation with an idea and a belief in otherness, so that, as Maharaj says, presence clicks with the body and you say, I. Presence was always there, it just clicked with the body. But the presence doesn't know anything.
Is presence prior to being?
Well, beingness appeared to this on the spontaneous presence.
Okay.
Beingness is that I am sense. Prior to I am, there's nothing. Again, except yourself, the self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no master, nothing. Nothing. Nothing.
But there's self with self, right?
This is selfless self is the background of what things are appearing on, the spontaneous presence that these perceived things are appearing on. There has to be something that clicked with the body for you to say I. That presence clicked with the body and you say I. But after this body falls, there's no more presence to say I. It's presence, but there's no instrument available to say I. Because this instrument, again, it never was.
But it's
All of this is a fume.
Isn't it still everything at once, though?
But again, if there's nothing to know, yet there's the potentiality of a knowing as something's arising. But there's nothing to know. Nothing. Prior to being this, nothing. After leaving the body, nothing. The something that appears are the ideas and beliefs and concepts, starting with I am and I am in a world. That's all this is occurring in. But just like we talked about, go ahead.
When I realize I am, I don't, or like when I'm in that full awareness state, whatever, I I realize that I am nothing. I actually realize that I am nothing, basically.
Using the consciousness, though, that will not always be with you.
I just have a hard time believing that there can be absolutely nothing.
Well, because there never was anything. See, that's the concept of all these things are there, but they're not really there. And when they leave, there never were, so they never are. Again, like we talked about last week, the dreamer dreaming the mouse world and all the mouse stuff. When the mouse body leaves, where does that mouse go? And yet it's just the dreamer dreaming he was a mouse, but it never was. See, there never was a John, there never was an Andrew or a Trish or a Kathleen.
But
All of these are appearing on your... Go ahead.
It arose from a source, though.
From the spontaneous presence that you are. But again, in order to know something, that consciousness that's creating this dream world and creating this waking state won't be with you. Because the consciousness comes when the presence clicks with the body and you say, I am. But all of this is appearing in the consciousness. It's all appearing on your spontaneous presence. Nothing is there. You, the absolute, so to speak, the selfless self, are dreaming all of this stuff, basically, that's not. But you're not losing anything. See, you sit there and actually it's total freedom, because you never were this. You never were in a world. There never was a world, and you never were in it. And none of this was ever happening. You're just going to go back to your state before you believed in all these things, before you clicked with a body and started to see a world. That's how you are. You are eternal. You are unchanging. All of this has appeared on your spontaneous presence.
But if I am eternal and I'm unchanging, then I'm not nothing.
You're not anything that can be perceived. There's nothing other than your own self, so there's no knowing.
So it
there's
is
not a...
So it is itself, though, in a sense.
Well, again, there has to be something.
It's Brahman.
Just like when you go to sleep at night and you fall asleep, you go through dream, you go through deep sleep, you wake up, something you were continuing through all these states were appearing on that continuous. And just like Maharaj has said with their prior to beingness, nothing, the appearance of something, presence clicked with the body and you say I, and then it returns to nothing. But the nothing is the continuum, and all of these states are appearing on that continuous nothingness.
And you are that.
And you are that.
It's not my that. It's that.
It's that's that. It's that is that. Yeah. Exactly. There's no individual that. That is that.
You know, I remember one time when I was in theology years ago, we were reading Karl Rahner, who was a famous theologian, and he said that, you know, God was really the horizon against which everything is seen. And I remember back then that really impressed me. The horizon against which everything is seen is the background. It's like the I guess that continuum that you're mentioning, right? Something like that.
Yeah, it's. I think it's called substratum.
Substratum, right?
Substratum,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's continuous. It's eternal. It's always there, and everything that is not that comes and goes. I think they talk about in Das Bod that even if you were to, you know, the gods that have been around for millions of years, eventually will not be, because only you are, and all these things are appearing in the nothing that you are. And you're taking the shape, taking the form, whatever you want to call it, the presence, all of this is appearing. And that's why now, as you're using body form, it's very easy to discard what is not yourself. Everything that appears on spontaneous presence is not yourself, is transient, coming and going, and disappears, and is illusion. And the mind, this is the key tricky thing, to train yourself sort of to know that every thought that appears to you through mind has to be about the form world, because everything is after that. It's presence, I am somebody else, mind, ego, intellect, or interpreting this world that I'm believing I'm in. And mind, ego, intellect, since they came after, they appeared on spontaneous presence, they're presenting ideas and thoughts and beliefs in form to you, the formlessness.
But that's why I don't like the word nothing, too much emphasis on the word nothing, because then my mind will it'll form like a negation idea of the conceptual, my concept of what nothing is, which isn't really what nothing is. Nothing is, Brahman is what nothing is, basically, but Brahman is that which is not the type of nothing that I would think nothing is. Get what I'm saying?
Yes. And it has to use words. You can't use words to point. There's no words to describe. Even there's no words to describe as you're using body form, formlessly aware. There's really no words to describe that, other than you can say scenes are passing before the witness, and the witness is unconcerned with what it's seeing. But even that is not quite true. And like you said, the concept that I believe in of nothing, and I don't like this concept of nothing, but there's nothing but no concept. It's concept free. It's the absence of everything that is not.
I like to say no thing, because that doesn't mean there's nothing. It just means there's no thing.
But no thing could also be space, and anything with attributes cannot be yourself, because all attributes are added to that attributeless self. Attributeless, you could look at it as nothing, or attributeless, you could look at it as the absence of all attributes. But even to say the absence of all attributes, there has to be something for these attributes to be appearing on. It's not like that either.
Maybe it's that there's a somebody that resists the complete dissolution. That somebody, the body knowledge or ego or whatever, that doesn't want to.
Of course.
Yeah. This will be, like Maharaj says, the tenants fighting for their very survival. Because once it's known that you never were, it's like, wait a minute, so I don't matter. Well, no, it's not like that, because you are that. You never were this other thing, this limited thing. The limited thing was a concept believed in by the limitless. And only to know yourself.
Then you can die in peace.
Because there's no death, and you'll know that there's no death.
Yeah.
You know,
let the body go in peace.
You let the body go in peace.
and even that, because you already won't be attached to the body. So there won't be, at time of, quote, expiration of the body, because all relations are body-based relations, all needs and requirements are body-based needs and requirements. There won't be I wish I could have seen my son grow up. Or, I hope my wife is okay. I hope I left enough retirement, or all this kind of stuff. Because there won't be a you, because you won't experience death.
What I tell people is that form came about through the fearlessness of the self of self, basically. That which is behind being is not afraid. It's to be. It just does it out of fearlessness. Well,
again, and fearlessness is an attribute on the attribute list. There's no See, there's no form at all. There's no body at all. There's no world at all. There's no nothing
Right.
at all.
Nothing there to be afraid.
Yeah, because there's not a you. See, there has to be a you in order for there to be other, in order for there to be, like, again, the point on the map. Here I am, and I'm believing myself that I'm a separate body. I'm having thoughts and ideas. All this body knowledge is impressing on me. So that means this other person here creates a person who's separate and apart from me. And then there's a fear-based state because I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to think. But without a you, there is no them. There's no otherness. There's just formlessly aware. And this, again, mantra, remaining with your selfless self. Every time, like it was talked about, the tenets, and one of the biggest things that the egoic sense of self believed in is going to hold on to is, so I don't matter? You mean to tell me that life is nothing? Like I don't matter at all? But it has to go to the prior to that mind that's trying to present these ideas and beliefs, that this mind arose on that spontaneous presence that you are. It's presenting ideas and beliefs in the form world. Just like we talked about the mouse. The mouse is only going to have mouse thoughts because of the body that it believes itself to be. And the dreamer believes itself to be a mouse. Therefore, it's natural that the mouse is going to have mouse-type thoughts based on the body knowledge.
So it's those limitations that don't matter, actually.
That is correct. We are limitless. The only time you limit yourself is when there's an idea believed in. Spirit clicked with the body and you say, I. Just I. Body as an instrument. But there's no touch of body. There's no... It's not like you're dragging the dead body around with you anymore. And yet you go, you look in the mirror, you comb your hair, you brush your teeth and all this kind of stuff. But it's just not, you're not so attached. You're not, you're not like attached. There's no attachment because you're formless. And this is a form. It comes and goes, as do all the forms that you're perceiving.
So then you can be doing anything and not suffering because doesn't really make that much difference.
Well, again, suffering is a belief with a feeling in an idea and an experience, either through memory or expectation. Your pain, yes, it might be. Like someone dies in your family. We talked about this too. Oh, there's pain. But I don't have to suffer this by continually milling it over in the mind. And the mind creates worlds of concepts for me to create a sufferer that's suffering because of this thing. And even worse, as I know myself in a real sense, I may not take the touch completely of, oh, this is my daughter or whatever, and she's died. And yes, I feel pain, but at the same time, I remain with my selfless self. This is a body relation. Just like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, oh, by the way, my wife died. And it's not that it's cold. And see, if an I am somebody else starts to think it seems cold, I need to create a sufferer to suffer because that's what the people that don't exist are expecting.
Kind of rotten, cold thing to do.
Exactly. That's why if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's not so, it can't be, because just like the dreamer that's dreaming and sees things going on in the dream, it doesn't affect the dreamer. Like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, the neighbor's child. The neighbor's child. Yes, it's sad that the neighbor's child is sick, but it doesn't really affect me. And myself, formlessly, without attributes, without any movement, totally, completely myself, all of these things are appearing, and all needs, all requirements came along with the body, all relations came along with the body. And if I'm not a body, then how? And see, It's not that I'm not a body and I discover I'm not a body. I never was a body. Like never. Never. I never changed from the formlessness. There was never a like, okay, there was a time when I was a form and then I went back to formlessness. No, it's constantly formless.
The body is only an appearance, like a mirage or something.
Exactly. You're the holder of the body, but you're not a body. You never were a body. And truly, you're not in a body.
You know, there's actually no body if you think that it's only sensations and perceptions. You know, if you look, you know, at the mirror or something, you're perceiving, but that's part of consciousness. And whatever body sensations are also part of consciousness. So you actually never discover the body.
And that's the thing when Siddharameshwar Maharaj says, you look in the mirror and say, I am in the mirror, but the mirror, there's nothing in the mirror.
Right.
It's the same. It's a reflection.
And even if the body gets shot, then it's only a sensation.
Getting shot?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never experienced being shot. But I imagine that would be a rough sensation to be sensation. Be like, whoa, damn.
Yeah, but it's still a sensation.
Yes. I mean, and technically it's again, you never were a body. Just like in the analogy of last week, you never were a mouse. So when the mouse body falls, it's not like you suddenly become not a mouse. You never were a mouse. You never were a body. There never was a world. You have not moved from your formlessness other than through the movement of ideas, beliefs, and concepts. The wind moving in space seems to have created a tornado and destroyed the city. There's nothing that like this. You never were a body. There never was a world. That's why they say the unchanging. You're the formlessness that has never moved, has never experienced anything, has never nothing. It's all things all the time throughout everything that is appearing on your spontaneous presence. But you never were a form. There never was a form world. And when you know this, and when you know yourself in a real sense and you behave this way, that's where the fun starts, like Maharaj says, because you're formlessly aware, just moving, passing through. Like, no, nothing, you're not taking the touch of anything. You're totally unconcerned with the world. And,
like the wind.
yeah, like the wind moving in space.
What did Jesus say? The wind, I forget what he said. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know where it's going.
Exactly. Exactly.
When he spoke of the Spirit.
Exactly. Yeah, and that sense is the formlessness, the formless sense of presence. You could say Holy Spirit, but even Holy Spirit, holy is an attribute on Spirit. And Spirit is a label that's not needed.
Holy isn't needed.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, holy is an attribute on Spirit, and Spirit is a label that's not needed. The only time you need labels is when there's something other, subject, object. Object, object.
Well, it seems like the tricky thing is not to use thought to create something, to create the illusion. Because,
well, again, no, I am somebody else. That's the root.
Yeah.
You know, rather than gardening and pruning, rip it out by the root. You rip it out by the root through mantra, remaining with yourself, the self, keeping with the meditation, the sense of presence, keep diving back into that. Every time something appears out here, dive back into that sense of presence. Okay, formlessly aware, formlessly aware. I am somebody else being created. Mantra, mantra, mantra. The instructions that I read in the book are my own self, leaving notes for myself. World is illusion, absolutely illusion. You're not a body. You are not a body. You're not going to remain the body. These are notes to myself that myself in this form is reading and seeing, and it's an instruction manual. And when the master speaks and says it again and again and again, I have to so not identify with myself that I know that's myself. Because as long as I believe I'm a body, then Maharaj is a body. And Maharaj is speaking through the form of a body. But Maharaj is your own selfless self, using the body of Maharaj to speak. And Maharaj says, how you were prior to being this, how you will be after leaving the body. In between there's something, there's nothing. In between there's something, then there's nothing. The something appears for a time, but dissolves back into nothing. It was always nothing, but there just was the appearance of something. Master says you're Brahman, live like Brahman. Master says there's no separation between you and the Master. Know yourself as the formlessness and know that Master is formless, and how can there be separation? All of these things are your own selfless self, and the more you have this kind of I must know myself, when you listen to Ramakant Maharaj, you know the Master is speaking as the selfless self to the selfless self. When you read the books, that's your own self writing your biography, as Maharaj says. These are the instructions that I'm giving to you, myself. Then Maharaj gives the same thing. Then the bhajans, throughout all the bhajans, they say the same thing. You are formless. You are Master. You are Brahman. All the same thing. Everything is saying the same thing because it's always you telling you, hello, you forgot your identity. You think you're this body, but you're not. And I'm here to tell me that I'm not this body. Using these other different various media to do that. The media of Master, the media of the books, the media of listening to the Master in the videos, the media of the bhajans, the media of the mantra. All of these things are ways that I'm trying to impress upon my selfless self. You forgot your identity. When you forgot your identity, you believed in the illusion because you thought you were a body. Therefore, you related from the body point of view to the world that the body was perceiving. But you're perceiving it as a body rather than the totality, rather than the formlessness that's just witnessing but without a witness, experiencing without an experiencer. As Maharaj says many times, no knowledge is knowledge. Knowledge is just to know yourself in a real sense. Spontaneous conviction is, I was not body, I am not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Body is not my identity. Just formlessly aware. All of this is appearing on my spontaneous presence and is absolutely illusion. And then I don't have to think what happens after the body falls because I'm formless. I know this. I know myself in a real sense. So all these concepts are just concepts that can try to explain from the body perspective or from a singular perspective, from an individual perspective that never existed. And that's where all the concepts and beliefs have to be, is when I'm believing myself to be something that I'm not. When I'm believing that I'm this body and this world in this body is in this world. And that's the illusion. Why? Because you forgot your identity. You forgot your identity that all of this is appearing on your spontaneous presence. You never were a body. You're not a body, you were not body, and you're not going to remain body. And again, like Maharaj says, intellectually speaking, you see this body as a young man grown up to like a middle-aged man, then an old man, but you haven't changed at all. Even there's a knowingness about this. I think Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about the child consciousness. Child consciousness is because it hasn't grown. It hasn't aged one day. It's outside of time. There's no time for it. The body and the concept of I am somebody else, when I'm connected with the body is aging and going through time. The 5 elements are expiring, basically, on a, like you get a cheese and it says use by November whatever. There's a use by date on this body. I don't know it. It's somewhere, like on the back of your neck. You can't see it, but there's a use by date. And then it's finished.
Expiration date.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Expiration date,
Yeah.
and then it's finished. But the one that attached to this expiring thing, it's not aging. It's not experiencing any of these things. It's going through this body form that has an expiration date. And as this body form was conglomerated from the 5 elements, as this body form expires, it just goes back to the 5 elements. I'm using it for a time, like Maharaj says, leasing, so to speak, this form, but I'm the formlessness.
Good. Well, on that note, it's 7 minutes after 9. And,
Sounds good.
okay, and enjoy the snowfall. Those of us.
Good luck with the snow.
Yes.
Okay, good night. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.